My name is Jenny Etnier, and I'm the past president of NASPSPA, and it's my honor and privilege to welcome everyone to the beautiful Catamaran Resort here in San Diego for the celebration of the 50th anniversary of NASPSPA and for our 2017 annual conference. Over the next several days, I hope that you thoroughly enjoy the many historical events that have been planned and have been interspersed with our scientific program. Information about all of the events is available on the web, as is the abstract supplement. So that can be your primary resource for the program, for the historical events, and for the abstracts. And of course, you all have your pink sheets, right, which is your map to everything at the conference. This afternoon, I'd like to really focus on the historical events. And I want to remind you of the events that are coming up so that you don't miss any of these wonderful opportunities. As soon as I finish with the welcome, we're going to move on to the Historical Foundations lectures. And Bob Christina, Larry Brawley, and Jane Clark are each going to take the first 40 years of the history of their areas, and they're going to share their perspectives on that historical time period with you. The next events that we're going to have are 3 Janus Symposia, and all of these are going to take place approximately 9:30 in that time slot for each of the next 3 mornings. And Janus is the Roman god who was able to look into the future and also back into the past. And so that's the title we've used for these talks, in which 1 or 2 presenters are going to focus on the most recent decade for their area, and then another presenter is going to look forward into the future. So on Monday, we'll have the Motor Learning and Control Janus Symposium. Mark Williams and Brad Favre will be looking at the most recent decade, and then Cheryl Glazebrook will take us into the future. On Tuesday, in that same approximate time slot, we'll have David Anderson and Leah Robinson. And then on Wednesday, the Sport and Exercise Psychology group is taking a slightly different format. They're going to use a panel in which Mark Eyes, Diane Gill, Kathleen Martin-Guinness, and Al Smith are going to address some pre-specified questions, but also have some interactions with the audience. So I hope that you all will make all of those events. Tim Lee, Mo Weiss, Jill Whittle, and Howie Zelaznik all deserve thanks for putting together these historical events that I've just described. And Glenn Roberts, who attended his first NASPSPA meeting in 1966 and has been an active member since, wrote a historical perspective that hopefully many of you have already read. It appeared in the spring newsletter, and that's also available on the website. Penny McCullough has been conducting distinguished scholar interviews. She's contacted 24 of the named scholars and has almost completed all of those interviews. Those are all saved as audio files and are going to be made available on the web for perpetuity so that people can check out the thoughts that those distinguished scholars had. And she also wanted to mention that she's hopeful that students will really take on the task of continuing to update the historical family tree so that those actually become living documents. And what I'd like to do now is to ask these individuals who are shown here if they would please stand so that we could recognize and thank them for all of their hard work on the historical programming for the conference. So I sincerely hope that you will find this NASPSPA to be a very memorable event, that the 50th anniversary programming will really supplement and complement the exceptional scientific program that we have. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Penny McCullough, who's presiding over the Historical Foundations lectures.
The Historical Foundations lectures for the 50th anniversary of NASPSPA will include 3 eminent and long-standing members of NASPSPA. They will represent the areas of motor learning and control, sport and exercise psychology, and motor development. Each lecturer will present their take on the fascinating highlights of their areas during the 4 decades from 1967 to 2006. They will focus on paradigms, theories, methodologies, trends, and highlight overall contributions over those decades. I am absolutely delighted to be able to introduce these people. Cumulatively, I've known them for over 125 years. So that's a long time, and I consider them all colleagues and friends. So I'm delighted to be able to introduce you. First of all, Dr. Bob Christina. I've known Dr. Bob Christina since I first attended SUNY Brockport in 1970, where he was an associate professor at the time and the head baseball coach. You can blame him for my presence here, since I took my first sports psychology class from Dr. Bob and my first motor learning class from Dr. Bob. I remember the sports psychology class, we used that big white book that was from the ISSP Congress, and I got my first introduction to research from Dr. Bob. Thank you. I helped him on a couple of early edited books that he did, and that was fun too. Dr. Christina was named a Distinguished Scholar in 2012. He served as the president of NASPA in 1979 and 80. He was program chair in 1979. He was on the program committee in 75 and 90. He's managed to combine his love of studying skill acquisition into his hobby in retirement. Currently, he serves as research and education consultant for the Pinehurst Golf Academy, and I was lucky enough to go, and he invited me to give a talk there, so I got to go, even though I'm not a golfer. He also works for Golf Magazine, Golf Magazine's Top 100 Teachers, Precision Golf School, PGA of America, and on and on and on in the world of golf. So he makes certainly lots of contributions. I got the pleasure to interview him as a distinguished scholar, and I asked him if all of his knowledge about skill acquisition helped his golf game, and he said, no, not much. The next speaker will be Dr. Larry Brawley, and he has served a number of roles within NASPA as well. He was program chair in 91 and 2008, on the program committee in 1980, 92, 97, 98, 2008. He was senior lecturer in 2005, and then he was named a distinguished scholar in 2015. He became a Tier 1 Canada Research Chair in 2005, and as a Canada Research Chair, Dr. Brawley's research examines why people successfully adapt physical activity. And he's done a lot of research in that particular area. He's in his 4th decade of NASPA membership. With colleagues, and dear colleagues, Widmeyer and Karen, he has long history investigating group cohesion in sport and exercise, as well as processes of self-regulation. Larry is a true scholar and a gentleman. It's a pleasure to know Larry, and we've had the pleasure, I think I met you first in 1981, and for many, many years we've shared a sip of wine on Friday nights at NASPA, so it's been fun. Finally, Dr. Clark. Dr. Clark has served in many roles as NASPA as well. She was on the program committee in 1979, 84, 91, 97, 2010, 2000, and 2010. Well, when she didn't serve on the committee, she was being chair of the committee, and she did that in 81, 90, 2000 again, and 2012. So she kind of runs the motor development area. She was communications director from 1983 to 85. She was president in 92, 93. She received the President's Award in 99. She serves as past president liaison from 2003 to 6. And then she was named a distinguished scholar in 2013. So everybody has some little ribbons, and Jane's, she can't put them all on because she'll trip over them. There's so many there. I've known Jane since 1973. We were sitting in Joe Saford's measurement class at the University of Wisconsin. I remember exactly where I was sitting, and I remember exactly where she was sitting. So as the first day of school, everybody goes around and introduces themselves. And this woman over in that corner said, well, my name's Jane Clark, and I went to SUNY Brockport and did my undergraduate degree, and I went to the University of Washington and did my master's degree. And I sat over there and I said, no way, that's where I went. So we've always had the joke, every time we see each other, we say no way. This was, and those were my same institutions. So Jane and I share the same pedigree, but she became far more accomplished than I did. So we followed each other along. She's a professor at the University of Maryland, and over the span of her appointment served as department chair for many years, and then she also went on to be the dean of the School of Public Health. So she's had a long career in administration as well as in research. Her research focuses on the development of motor control and coordination in typically developing infants and in children with developmental coordination disorder. Her passion is to help children achieve the competence and confidence to be physically active throughout their life. She is also famous, and you have to be around for a long time, but one of her infamous tasks was to get rid of the blue lines for the AFERD abstract submissions. So I remember you well for doing that, Jane. She's done some other things as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Bob Christina.